Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 47 of the Make Music Income podcast. My name is Steve. I'm here with Eric, as always. And today we are going to be talking about the dark, mysterious art of mastering. And don't worry, this is not going to be a super technical, nerdy discussion about the subject. If you want that, there's plenty of videos on YouTube that really get into the weeds of it all. Yeah. But what we want to talk about today is just our own simple approach to it, what mastering means to us, and specifically how it relates to the music that we write for libraries and licensing opportunities. And yeah, we're going to discuss some of the different approaches that we take for various clients, some things to be aware of, and of course, we'll discuss the software tools that we use to get the job done. So that's what we're going to get into today. But before we do that, as always, Eric, the floor is yours. How has your week been?
Well, thank you. It's been good until a tropical storm decided to roll in. Welcome to Florida. And but it's passing as we speak. It's passed as we speak, where it's now headed over into the Gulf. And thank goodness my school was closed last night that I teach at. They closed it in an abundance of caution, as we say here in Florida. And but now it is open tonight, so I'll be leaving here as soon as we're done to go teach hungry minds. But a shocking development happened this week while I was here, and some yesterday since I had kind of the whole day yesterday, but since last weekend, since last time we talked, I have been recording and finishing music. Yeah.
You actually made some time to write some music?
I actually made music. No, I literally went through, I think it was Saturday, and I went through and there was at least 15 or 17 songs that I had just ready to go. I told you that I had these. And so yesterday I finished, I decided to do this one piano arrangement of a Christmas hymn. And I don't see anybody else with this arrangement on Motion Array.
See, that's the ticket. You gotta find those gaps on the library, and that's where you make money.
It's a little of an outlier Christmas song, but it's known. I mean, when you hear the melody, you know what it is. But
right.
Still, I did that yesterday. Came up with my own little version. I did something dangerous. I kind of made a little variation in the middle of it, and added a piece. Some purists may be like, "Bah, humbug." I will not agree with this.
The Christmas purists will be very upset.
English, and you'd have to be an old English Christmas purist to really get mad.
Okay.
I also finished and went ahead and printed out that orchestral upbeat pop thing that I was working on. I sent you a copy of it just to get your thoughts, and that's out. They're all waiting to be processed on Pond 5, which they probably are already. I just haven't got back to check.
Did you send that one to Motion Array?
Yeah, I do Pond 5 first because that helps me. I go ahead and, like I've said a million times, I use Pond 5 as my organizing system. So my description, my keywords, everything I put in there first, and then I use that to copy and paste over to Motion Array and over to Audio Jungle, and then on and on. Song Trader and all the others that I put stuff up to. So right. I've got more I've been putting a lot more up to Song Trader lately, trying to continue to ride that bet so that if this year or next year I get another big payout, like I did got a couple $100 last month, and I think I've made $300 or $400 this year on Song Trader. So I just got to continue to pile stuff in because I haven't put anything in since the beginning of this year in there, just because I was experimenting with other things, and I wasn't sure if Song Trader was going to make me any money, and it has. So I want to I've got dozens of songs to go in there, if not 100. But let's see what else. I'm getting ready to do more Piano Christmas. I've got a Piano Christmas album, or I'm kind of doing a waterfall release strategy, starting as soon as I can get to it, of putting some of these singles up to DistroKid, including this one I did today. But then I have another one that I did last year that I haven't put up there yet, I don't think. And I'm just going to start releasing every week until the 1st of December, and then I'm going to release the whole thing and just release the whole Christmas album.
Nice.
So I really got to stay on that. I've still got 15. I just looked. I have 15 or 16 songs still that are just sitting there ready to be finished and put out. So just got to try to get to all those. And then my career, I did a video yesterday called Careers for Composers on the Hello Composers site. We had a good time to listen to some music. And
yeah, the music was sounding really good.
Yeah, you popped in for a minute. We do a little bit of also do a little lesson at the beginning of that, and I'll probably cut that out. As a matter of fact, I think this lesson's going to probably turn into a little ebook because it's kind of perfect for that. So I might just do an ebook, kind of a free ebook for Hello Composers, which are great for building, your mailing list and stuff. But speaking of ebooks, I have my new sync ebook is coming along. And I've got some more written on that, and that's moving towards publication. And I've also got an update to the stock market ebook that I'm working on just to fix a few links that are different now and put some different information that I've learned since the last time I put it out. I had 2 rejections at Crucial.
Oh no!
Which means new slots are open. And also I just got 2 covers in their library in the past month. So that's a slow game at Crucial because you only have a few slots because they're such careful curators.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I kind of like the fact that they don't just let every hoo-ha send in 500 songs.
Yeah.
You really have to go in there and they have to accept you. Now, whether they're accepting my absolute best stuff or not, I can't say, but they've accepted what they've accepted, and you can see them pitching it, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
I've got a video coming on them. I just emailed them and said, can I do a video about you guys and show behind the scenes of what goes on? They said, well, yes, but let us see it first. So that's coming up here in the next few weeks.
Fair
disappointing.
enough.
I had a disappointing August payment from Identify. It wasn't
really.
I kind of fell back to earth a little bit with, a few people said that, but mine was due to the video that I'd been writing for months, that had been giving me $100 or more. It kind of tanked a little bit last month. So, or at least remember, we're 4 months ahead of what it's actually doing and paying. So
you got a statement for August? I'm not sure if I got that.
Yeah, your number, all the numbers are up. They don't send you a statement. You have to go look.
Yeah. No, I know, but I feel like go ahead.
Usually people will somebody in Discord will say, August Identify numbers are up, and so we'll all go look. So yours are up. You just haven't gone to look at it yet.
Let me just I'll bring it up here before I do my weekly.
See how you've done. See if you beat me. I think I only had 23 or $25 or something like that. If I remember right. And you were getting that.
It's still going up for me. I got what do we got? A gross $70. What's the net is $50. $50. Yeah. So that's the highest.
$50 in August?
Yeah, $50 that's the highest so far. That's not bad.
It was the highest for me, I think, in videos that it found, which is only 17 or 18. How many videos is it finding for you?
Let's see here. For August, where is the...
It's like the first part of it.
Well, it says total views. Oh, total claim videos. Sorry, 240.
Wow.
Yeah. And
it's total 240 videos for you?
Yeah, total views 216,000. So that just goes to show you what kind of money to expect from Content ID for all of those claim videos. I mean, it went up exponentially. Like, because July there was 50 claim videos, and now there's 240. So it clearly something's happening. It's good.
That's great.
It's good news.
Well, and also, some of those videos might be found, but they can't get any money from them because for whatever reason, either they're already being monetized, or they're ad based, or they're yours already, and you're already getting that money in wherever like I have a lot of stuff up there and it says copyright is claimed on this. Yes, it's claimed by me. I'm the one getting paid from wherever it's collecting it. Sometimes it's CD Baby, sometimes it's someplace else.
Mm.
All right, and then the last thing, no, that's it. That's really it. That's all I got.
That's it.
I hate to end on disappointing news, but everything else is going well. It's a decent, okay month for me on Motion Array, but for you, you would be jumping out a window if you had the numbers I have
Well, my
on
numbers right
Motion.
now in Motion Array are nothing to brag about. That's for sure. I didn't send them any music for November. I probably won't until later this month. I'm going to be late for the Christmas stuff too. It's that's just the way it is right now. Things are just crazy. They're busy, yeah, I don't know. Lots going on. I joined Song Trust officially. I paid the fee, which is $100 to join Song Trust. I think I mentioned that briefly on the last podcast. Now I got another platform to upload all my stuff to.
Well, and the question is, what does Song Trust collect? Is that mostly European dollars or dollars outside of your BMI or SOCAN money?
Exactly. So publishing royalties outside of the local North American realm, and then also mechanicals on streaming and stuff. So we shall see how that adds up. I'm sure there's a video coming down the pipe at some point about it. But yeah, I hope, like, I'm betting that it's going to be more than $100 in royalty payouts. At least I'm hoping so in the long run. I mean, for the fee,
At least for the
I think
first payment.
I hope so, and then that would cover the fee to join up, and then I would be happy.
I've heard people talking about that their first song payment. It's like when I got my first one from Sound Exchange. It was big. If I'd had to pay
Yeah.
$100, I wouldn't have been mad because I made a 700 on my first payment. But then after that, it's way down. But maybe it'll be like that with Song Trust. They'll find a bunch of stuff that's been sitting there waiting for you, and that'll hopefully.
Yeah,
I'll be
totally.
interested to find out because if you do that, I might as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll let everyone know how it goes. That's for sure. What else is going on? I put a quick video out yesterday about Cubase, kind of. Well, it was about an orchestral hip hop track, and I wrote it in Cubase, and I finally got a track finished in there. I'm kind of wrapping my head around it. Yeah, go watch the video if you want to see me kind of scramble around in Cubase. But I really enjoyed the reaction that I got in the comments, and actually a lot of people wrote some really, really helpful suggestions about things and shortcuts and stuff they use in Cubase, and there's a lot of people who are big fans of Cubase out there, which isn't surprising at all. And yeah, it's just interesting to kind of get perspective on different things that different DAWs offer. It continues to be really interesting to me. The more time I spend with it, the more I like it. And yeah, I'm eager to learn more about it. So that's been fun. And yeah, I've been using a real studio space lately. My friend who he's like he rents this studio space with like a bunch of other folks here in Vancouver, and he's away touring right now for like the rest of the month. So he gave the space to me to use, and it's been incredibly helpful because, well, for many different reasons, but. One thing that I'm working on is this monthly challenge for November in the Production Music Academy. It's a tough one. The challenge is to write a complete track with no VSTs whatsoever, and no samples at all. So everything has to be recorded with a microphone. It has to be organic. You can use whatever plugins you want, but you have to. It can be as simple
When you
as
say plugins, you mean like you can use effects plugins.
correct. Yeah, processing plugins like EQ and compression are totally fine.
Just not instrument plugins.
Yeah, no sample libraries. And no samples from Splice or anything like that. So that's the challenge this month. So it's going to be.
Did I see it? That can you sample something and use your own sample?
Yes, that is one of the things you can do. So you can load your samples into like a whatever native sampler comes with your DAW, and you can get creative with in that way. But you have to record it. That's the whole point.
It really kind of stoked the desire I have to tune to sample my piano, my acoustic piano.
Yeah, you should.
Piano. Now, I
Totally.
would have to tune it first or not, maybe just having it in its native form, which is a lot of times mostly a little out of tune, and just sample it and then play something. I don't know. That'd be interesting.
I sampled the piano at the same studio space that I'm using, and it's tough to get it right. It's actually quite difficult to make like a proper sample instrument. It's really
Plus, with
crazy.
piano, you have to do so many velocity levels and
Yeah,
all that.
you don't have to. I mean, you can do it on one
Yeah, I
velocity
guess
level
not.
if you want, but I kept it simple and did just one velocity for the whole thing. Otherwise, it would have taken me forever. But yeah, it was fun. I still use that instrument actually that I made in some of my lo-fi tracks. It actually turned out pretty well. But yeah, anyway, that's the challenge for this month, and I'm really excited about it. And it's good timing with the studio space. I'm using it for other things too. Right now, Artlist has got me working on three love songs. So they want like sort of like singer songwritery like folky like love songs, and that's the project for this month. And it's actually it's difficult for me because I'm not a lyricist, like I'm not a wordsmith, and it takes me a while to like get all the that's the hard part, is like getting the words and the like the all that together, like the music part of it, and playing the guitar and arranging it's like that's fairly straightforward, but it takes me a while with the words. Anyway, otherwise, getting excited about Black Friday. I've got a little wish list.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna go crazy this Black Friday.
Native Instruments is already sending me emails.
Oh yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I haven't even, and here's the deal. All I got to do is pay $200 and I can move up to Native Instruments 14,
Right.
just for my upgrade.
Right.
And just just with that, I get some I've wanted for a long time, which is Oxygen Standard, right?
Yeah, what is that?
Isotope.
Oh.
Isotope. It's not oxygen. What's it called? Isotone.
Which ozone?
Ozone. Yes.
Yeah.
Ozone Standard comes with the
Okay.
new Native Instruments Complete 14, and by upgrading, I get that, which is by itself 199. And
Right.
right now, if I could just come up with that 199, which I can't, I could upgrade to that. But then I look back at all the sounds that I've never explored already in Native Instruments Complete that I have.
Yeah.
Just going through them is just such a. I mean, it's not a chore with this keyboard over here because of the way you can find sounds on it. It makes it easy. But gosh, so many things.
There's so many things. Yeah. It's funny how many like early emails I'm getting about Black Friday.
Maybe we should do a show on that, about maybe maybe the next few, do a show on as it, because we'll be hitting like in 2 weeks or whenever, we'll be right around that Black Friday time, and say, hey, what's our Black Friday wish list or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's the 25th, right? So yeah, we don't have
It's
much
not just
time
Black
left.
Friday, it's like the whole, like
I know. Yeah.
the whole month.
And then
I mean,
like
can
then
do
you get
it for a
Cyber
week
Monday,
and
and then into Christmas time. So there'll be lots of specials. It's the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
It's the time to pick up those deals, and then I'm
really
definitely I'm definitely going to take advantage of some of them. I'm not going to upgrade my complete, but I would consider upgrading the Ozone to Ozone 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Croft was telling me that some of the mastering upgrades they've done are really, really great. But speaking of Black Friday, I'm about to do my own promotional push here for the Academy. For anyone listening who's interested in joining, there is going to be a significant discount on membership coming up, which will be for starting on Black Friday until after Cyber Monday, and then so Tuesday it's closing down. So it'll be like 4 days there where the membership's going to be on a big old discount. So get in on that if you're interested in joining up. I'd love to have you in the community. And I think that's about it for me for the weekly recap. So should we get into this?
Sure. Speaking of ozone.
Yeah, speaking of ozone.
And mastering.
So let's just start this off saying what is mastering to me. What I think of it is like, I think people tend to feel like really intimidated about it and maybe like overthink the whole thing. But I mean, essentially all it is to me is just kind of like putting the final touches on a track so that, the end result is like a polished and really, clean and solid mix that's sort of optimized for playback across different systems, different formats. The process for me is essentially, it's really simple. It's just volume adjustment using a limiter, which will also prevent any clipping, and some basic stereo enhancement using like a bit of like mid-side EQ adjustment, and that's essentially what it boils down to for me. Someone in the Discord, I think, wrote an interesting comment to me like a little while back, asking me whether I did my mastering like within the actual session that I work in, as opposed to like bouncing the stems out from my session and then like importing them into a totally new session and then just doing a mastering session specifically for those stems. And yeah, the answer is just like, yeah, I just keep it simple. I do all my mastering like within the actual session that I'm working in. That to me is just the fastest and least painful path towards getting a track ready for the marketplace. And I do know, in fairness, a lot of people who do it the other way. They bounce their stems and then they like import it into a different session that's like a specific mastering template. Nothing wrong with that at all. That's totally cool. For me, I just try to eliminate all the obstacles that are going to take up my time. That would be one of them. I get away with my mixes sounding fairly good within just the session itself. I don't load a lot of plugins. It's basically on my stereo out. It's usually just some like an SSL bus compressor and my Ozone. And we'll talk a bit about Ozone in a bit. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. If we're just talking about process, I keep a L2 Ultra Maximizer on my bus at all times. When I call up my initial template on Logic is a empty software instrument and an empty audio track, 2 tracks. That's it. Mm-hmm. And then I have a few verb sends that I use all the time, like a small and a big. And then I keep L2, and L2's already on the master bus. Yeah. And it's on there now. You're hearing it now. I call it initial L2. It's like nothing. It's just like minus 0.2 and then minus 0.7 on the. It's not doing anything except preventing any clipping. You know?
Right. Sure.
So since I've started producing, and this goes back to probably the early 2000s, maybe the late 90s. I was introduced to some Waves plugins, and Waves plugins have been around a long time. Yeah, they're the OG of plugins that you buy and stuff like that. And so I have been working with Waves plugins this whole time, and it's not that I don't think there are any other plugins, but it's just the thing that worked for me. And when something works for me, I don't often depart from it. I mean, it takes a lot for me to change. It's like, that's why it's so shocking to me that you can just pick up and leave Logic just like it's an old sweater you're done with or something. It's shocking to me. But anyway, totally. Moving along with that. I know you're not leaving Logic completely, but these Waves plugins have worked so well for me through the years, and so I am still using them, and I want to show the exact one I do. Am I able to do that now? So what I do initially, and let me just show you what that looks like. I'm just going to share my screen here, and I don't need to share the sound or anything, so I'm just going to share my Logic screen with you real quick. So here is Logic, and hopefully you're not seeing that. You're just seeing the main thing that I'm talking here. But over here, you'll see
there's
my
your L2. Yeah,
and it's on right now, and it's just a maximizer. I'm not using it for any. Does the window pop up?
Yep. So
you see the window, and you can see my settings on it. And this is on for every song I create. I have this window on, or this effect on the master bus, and this is doing nothing except making sure I don't clip if I get too loud, which I usually don't, because We could talk about gain staging and all that kind of stuff all day long, but I start pretty quiet with things. I don't let anything get too loud.
Yeah.
I'm not a slammer, and if I am going to slam it, I'll slam it later or something like that. I found this package, and actually my engineer suggested this package to me years ago. If he says if you want to do some easy mastering, and if you just want to know how to master, then I would suggest this. And let me make sure I'm on the right tab here. Um, he suggested this. You sing Waves?
Yep.
It's called the Waves Masters package. It's actually, speaking of Black Friday, it's the early Black Friday deal is on right now for $69.
Is that marking down from $549?
Yes, but if you've listened to Dave Cross video,
Yeah.
you'll know that what that means. What that means is it's not really marked down. It's marked down for now. It's these drastic reductions in price for a three. This is basically just three different plugins, and I only use two of them.
Yeah,
But
for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, it's the L2 Ultra Maximizer from Waves, linear phase EQ, and the linear phase multiband compressor, all for $69 for Black Friday.
And to be honest, I use only the linear phase multiband compressor. I use that first, and I'll call that up here, and you should be able to see what that looks like. And that's just basically a really easy way to control all the bands, the main five bands of your stuff, and it tells you down here what it kind of reads it for you. It's very much like Ozone, where it reads it and tells you what would they suggest that you set it at. And all I know is that I set it at what it tells me, and it always comes out sounding good. Everybody asks me, how do you master this? How did you get such great lows and great highs? And sometimes I do nothing. Sometimes it says do nothing to the signal. Sometimes or to the band. Sometimes it tells me to do something to the band. All that kind of stuff. So I use that a lot. I really don't use the linear phase one, and then I use L2. Now there's now L3. There might be L4. There's also L1. But you know this with the Waves thing. Every couple of years or every time I change my operating system, I have to buy Waves again. I don't have to buy it for $500.
Yes,
but I might have to buy it for $100 or $200 or whatever they tell me the re-up price is. And at that time, it's not super discounted. It's whatever it is.
Not cool. You know? I'm gonna say that is just straight up not cool. And that's a good reason right there not to buy any Wave stuff. I mean, I don't know.
It's never too much, and the fact that I could go 2 or 3 years on $69 is also there's something to be said about that.
The price is very reasonable. Yeah.
If I get $69 for these two things, and I don't have to re-up that for years because I never upgrade my computer seriously, then it's not that bad. But if you do an upgrade and you have to, and then they quit working and you have to get a new version, so that's what I use. So let me describe how I use them. Basically how I use them is to first of all control all the bands of the EQ, and just make sure that my basses are solid. They don't need to come up more. And again, I've done most of the mixing before I turn this on. I don't start mixing when I turn these on. This is the last bit. I tell my students, and right now with my students in Pro Tools, they're only allowed to put like a Maxim or some kind of limiter on their master bus very lightly, just so they don't have any distorting or any crazy volumes or things like that. It helps them. But I tell them, you need to mix as you go. You need to be you can't wait till the mastering stage to get the mix right. The mix is where you get the mix right. But the mastering, but I will tell you, I do usually do my final mix with both of these on. Now, I don't think this is working. Oh yeah, it is. It's still loading for some reason. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I am literally recording right now.
Yeah, it's probably just too much CPU.
It may not let me change that. So I'm just not going to fool with my sound right now.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. I mean, the mixing is, I actually don't mix with any mastering plugins engaged, except for sometimes I'll have my bus compressor engaged. But even then, I try to just do all the leveling and the EQ and just make everything sound as good as it can possibly be before I apply the ozone. I definitely don't work ever with ozone engaged, and it's really just to adjust the volume and get it up to a competitive level or wherever it needs to be for wherever it's going. It's usually like negative 12 LUFS or something like that. It's usually a target. And it depends on where I'm sending it to. But and we could talk about that in a second, but like, yeah, I mean, I try to do all of the mixing and like the adjustments and the carving out of everything. That's all before I start thinking about the mastering. Mastering is just a final little icing on the cake kind of situation, just for me, right at the end of the whole process.
Absolutely. And it's not something that you are redoing the entire thing. People say, "Oh, I'll wait till I get done with this to mix and master, like mastering is part of mixing. Mixing is a separate process from mastering, and I think that needs to be understood by anyone who is wondering about mastering. Some people think mastering is like a second mixing session, and it shouldn't be. You should be mastering, either you're just adding mastering onto your finished mix. When you send stuff to a mastering engineer, do you know what you send him? You send him a stereo file. I mean, there are some groups that maybe send him stems or something like that, but for the most part, I've always sent a stereo file. I said, "This is the mix. I had it mixed by a professional mix engineer in Nashville. I don't want you to change it. I don't want a new sound. I want this sound. I just want it nice and competitive. I want it to sound good on all speakers. Make sure the EQ is right. Make sure the basses are solid. Make sure the highs aren't too high. All that kind of stuff is where you do what you do with mastering. And Ozone and these plugins I'm talking about here, they do that for you or help you do that.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing you brought up the mastering engineer part of this discussion, because I mean, I think that most of folks listening, anyone who's doing either stock music or music licensing knows that it would be pretty crazy to go and hire a mastering engineer to work on your music for, like, I don't know, whatever it is, like 100, say you're throwing like $100 a track. You don't know what the returns are going to be on that music. So it's so important to understand how to, like, master your tracks yourself to some extent. But the cases in, looking back on the instances where I've hired a mastering engineer have been for when I have an entire record that needs a mastering. And a big part of a mastering engineer's job is not only to improve, make some fine tuning improvements on individual tracks, but also to working towards, like, establishing a consistent listening experience across an entire set of tracks for an album. And that's something that I think is really helpful to have, like, a second set of ears on the music. So if I'm doing an album for my band, I generally don't master it. I send it to somebody else who knows a little bit better than I do. And I think that that's really beneficial. But in terms of the music that I'm uploading to libraries, I can't pony up for every single track I'm doing.
And until this current age where we've been back in the single world, once streaming kind of came in the past 10 years since we've been back at the streaming world, no more making CDs as much or full vinyl albums or whatever. And vinyl's a whole nother
that's right. Yeah.
But we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You've said something exactly right. Fine-tuning adjustments. He's doing fine-tuning adjustments to every song, and then making sure levels are consistent across all the songs of the album, and preparing the time between each song is similar and
that's right,
perfect between each one. That when you turn it on, you're not waiting 5 seconds for the song to start, and all these kind of things that he is doing with this the mastering engineer. But I hate to say it, I mean, I have a mastering engineer that I trust with all my mixes, and he's worked for me for 25 years, but I haven't been able to really send much to him. I sent my jazz album to him when I released a full album because I wanted that sound. I wanted him to master it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not, unless a client requests a separate mastering engineer, I rarely am having something mastered because most engineers are just applying their own mastering these days.
Yeah.
Because singles don't have anything that we don't know what it's going to match up to. We don't know what the next song on the playlist that they're listening to on Spotify is going to be. It could be super loud, super soft. So
Exactly.
it's not the same as it used to be. So mastering for all of us, I think you just said it has to be a fine-tuning adjustment you do once you've mixed it the way you like it.
Yeah.
And then from there you can you can take it to the next level with a little bit of mastering, but not a huge next level. It's not like you're coming up here with your mix and you're coming up way up here with the master. And that's how, look how different it is now. It should never be like that. It
Yeah.
should always be, just a fine tuning and a finalization,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of like the differences, I take a slightly different approach as to how heavy-handed I am with the mastering process, depending on where it's going, and also depending on the genre and the style, of course. But I should note that some of the libraries that I work with, well, specifically Artlist, they do their own mastering. So I have like a really light touch to the mastering, maybe just a bit of stereo enhancement, but I keep a lot of headroom for them before I send it to them because they do the final adjustments on it. Very similar to how like Spotify normalizes everything to like what, -14 LUFS or something like that, I think. You can crank your masters up to like, -8 or like just super loud, but they're still going to be all the same volume as everything else in the library or on the DSPs. So I think that's another discussion that we have to have here, which is about loudness.
Yes, let's talk about that. But before I talk about loudness, let me talk about normalization. Don't use it. Don't use normalization for the most part. You don't need to normalize tracks. A lot of people think, oh, that's the magic button. It doesn't matter how good, high or low I'll play this. I'll just normalize everything before I start fixing. You have any thoughts on that?
What do you mean normalizing like the individual audio regions?
Yeah, or just the entire audio region. You can just normalize the whole thing, and it just, it really can change the sound and the volume and everything of the
Well,
of the,
well,
of
if
the
you're,
sound.
yeah, if you're normalizing like audio regions, it's going to change the amount of gain that you're feeding into your plugins if you have any on the channel and
Right.
stuff like that. Then you're
Don't
going to
use
get really,
that.
yeah,
Use your controls that you have. Use EQ, use panning, use all these things. I've been teaching mixing this past few weeks and talking about EQ and panning and how important they are versus volume only. And sometimes this isn't a mixing class, but let's move onto volume and LUFS and dBs. Now, I have never been a LUFS person. I've been a dB person. So I'll just talk about what I do with dBs, and you can tell me how that compares with what you do with LUFS, because people ask me this all the time. How many LUFS are you using? I'm like, isn't that like a softener? I don't know.
Do you mean like
Isn't it a
do you mean
fabric softener?
by
LUFS? I
dBs? Do you
don't know.
mean like RMS, like the old way of measuring it?
Well, all I can do is show you what is on my screen.
Okay.
When I'm working in Logic, I'm working with this down here, right? I'm working with dBs. This is dBs down here. Maybe it's because I have it set to dBs. Or if I open up I have this set to um, zero point 0.2 minus zero point 0.2 dBs and minus zero
For
point
your
0.7
outside.
threshold right now, right? Are you using LUFS in that situation?
Yeah, well, ozone, like you can you can have ozone display LUFS or RMS. You can have the output readout. There's options there. I mean, I'm not like an expert on all the technicalities. LUFS stands for loudness units full scale, I think. And it's kind of like a more integrated way, I think, of measuring the overall loudness of the track. And generally when, libraries or DSPs, they'll have like those targets for you, or everything is kind of, LUFS is like the new standard measurement, I guess. You could
Yes.
say. So I mean, I don't know. I just kind of know. I just, usually aim for 12 if I'm sending it to Artlist, and they'll bring it up a little bit louder if they want. Or sometimes I think actually they ask for -14. I can't remember. But that's lots of headroom. A really loud mix would be like, -8 or -7 or something. And maybe if I'm doing some like, high energy hip hop stuff, I can send like a really loud mix to Motion Array, and they'll still normalize it to some extent too. I think we don't have to get into like super technical detail here, but I think if you remember back in the Audio Jungle days, there was like loudness wars, like there was some tracks which were obscenely loud. They really didn't have much dynamic range. And I think that's just something to be aware of. I mean, you can like, I feel like I can kind of hear this on Motion Array too sometimes. Like, I think that they kind of standardize the volume to some extent. I'm not totally sure. But sometimes I hear mixes and people are just smashing it. Like, it's just like a really, really, like you could tell like they put a lot of limiting on the track. There's just not a lot of dynamic range at all. I don't think, at least in my experiences, there's never really been a correlation in terms of like how hard I'm like driving the limiter and my sales. Like I've actually uploaded a couple tracks that are very, very, I think it really is like loudness is not the answer to getting more sales or to more traction on libraries. I'm fully comfortable with sending them like very dynamic mixes, and people respond to the music regardless of the volume. I think that's just something that I wanted to speak on.
We both get a lot of people who send us mixes, and we can hear one mix is very comfortable where we usually listen to everything, and then one mix is just slammed. I mean, it's just looks like a block of audio. There's no dynamics in it. Now, it might be very aggressive music, but still, even aggressive music doesn't have to look like a brick wall across the whole final wave or whatever we're talking about. But it's important to know that in this, a lot of times I will pull down my threshold, but my threshold still only usually, I feel like if I have to come down more than -6 on my threshold, then I am just having to crush it then I am not loud enough. My gain of everything is not loud enough. Or if it's too loud and I'm going down that high and I have to pull it up because it's too loud, then everything is too loud. You know what I mean? Right. There are markers to me, and once you get used to whatever software you're using, you'll see those, you'll hear it, you'll feel it, that you're going too far with your mastering. You're squashing it too much, and you'll feel the life go out of it. And I think things like Ozone are very helpful in listening to what you're doing and giving you some suggestions. And I only use Ozone, the light version. Yeah. And sometimes I will use Ozone because, and I've heard other engineers say this, Ozone has a lovely, what do you call Ultra Maximizer? It's a, what's another name for it?
Yeah, that has a maximizer in it.
The limiter. It's got a lovely limiter on it that is nice and soft. It's not really harsh. And so when it puts that maximizer thing on it, it's not going to kill it. It's going to make it still sound very nice and warm, and it's squashing. It's going to squash nicely. So I will sometimes use these two, and I'll put Ozone on it to get a more aggressive mix, to just get a little bit more of everything, as I said in my blog, in my thing the other day. But
yeah, I mean, Ozone is also really great for for folks like us who are not like we're not mastering engineers. We just write music, and we're trying to make the music sound as good as it can possibly be without having to jump through too many hoops. And Ozone knows that. They're trying to make it as accessible to the average composer as possible, and they have something called the mastering assistant built right into the software, which basically is like you can have your target platform, like you can have a target range for streaming or CDs or whatever, and you could tell Ozone if you want like a heavy handed master, or if you want a light master, or in terms of where the limiters or the threshold's going to be set, and it just does it for you. You can and it does an amazing job. I mean, Dave
Or it will
Croft
do
was
the
telling me
intelligent
about,
one.
he was telling me about how Ozone 10's like mastering assistant is just next level. It's amazing. I've used the mastering assistant occasionally in Ozone 9 and get great results with that too. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it works.
If you've
Sometimes
not
it
used
doesn't.
Ozone before, the mastering assistant listens to the mix for you and adjusts everything.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what that does.
Yeah, which is nice, for someone who doesn't want to get like, super technical. I mean, you could just go down the rabbit hole with mastering, and it's
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
why they give you presets. That's why they give you the mastering assistant, so you can get a sense of maybe a starting place, and then just tweak from there, you know. Because we are not a music engineer. All we can do is have our ears and make sure we are used to hearing a certain sound and then go with that. And as kind of my last word on mastering, it's just exactly what Steve said earlier, which was, just a final light editing that you're doing to just the final mix that you've already got good. You've already got the final mix. You've got it the way you want it. And then you're adding on just this final layer of making sure that everything is volume wise good and EQ good and maybe a little spatial stuff good. Other than that, you don't need to be really spending a day on mastering a song. It
oh my
needs to just
gosh,
be
no.
a final quick I can master in less time than it takes to listen to the entire song. So
Yeah.
that's how long it should take you to master a song, is 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, I usually just listen to the track with the master applied, and then it's like it's good to go on to the next track. It's not something I spend too much time worrying about, especially with everything else that's going on. I got too many other things that are pulling at me, so I gotta do quick masters. And I try to preserve some natural dynamics. I'm always preaching that, especially if you're working on like softer music, like folky, acoustic, or cinematic stuff. Don't crank that the limiter, man. You're gonna squash the life out of your track.
Give us some dynamic range to enjoy with our ears.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
Yeah. It could work. So some
Yep.
cases, like heavy metal, some hip hop. I do some pretty heavy-handed compression mastering sometimes, but yeah, for the most part, I try to
Club music,
keep it chill.
if it's club music or stuff
Yeah,
like
EDM,
that sometimes.
totally,
Yeah.
totally, yeah. So that's
Cool.
those are my final thoughts, and I guess we'll leave it there.
Yep. Everybody, thanks for listening to our rambling about mastering. And I hope this has helped in some ways and not hurt in any ways. But find whether it's Ozone, whether it's the Waves mastering package, whether it's some other kind of mastering chain that comes with your DAW. Find the thing that works for you. Keep it as simple as possible. That makes a nice sounding final sound, and then just keep that and don't reinvent the wheel every time you have to finish a song.
Exactly.
Get that process down.
Yeah,
So.
couldn't have said it better myself. That is exactly my thought on it as well.
All right, everybody, have a great week this week, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening, guys.
And watching.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye.